Well, it's post-Labor Day. You know what that means, kids. Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
Oh, no.
Yes. Welcome to The Cabin. My name is Eric Paulson.
I'm Audio Dave.
And I'm Susan Foch.
And with us today, in salute of winter and snow on the ground, snow on the mountaintops, and more, we are joined by Jack Sarama. Dylan Rose and Jack Sarama. Okay, that's how I wanted to do it. In case you don't know who these two are, if you haven't seen them on yet, they are on our own Discover Wisconsin sister show, Boondock Nation, which has been around how many seasons now? How many years?
We're rolling into our 7th season, actually.
7 already?
Already. Feels
Man.
like just started yesterday.
Now, Discover Wisconsin, the TV show itself, was started back in 1987. The roots go back to 86, when our founder, Dick Rose, and former Wisconsin Governor Tommy Thompson were fishing.
Familiar?
Because
It is.
Dick
Have
Rose.
you heard that story once or twice, Dylan?
At least 5 times.
Okay.
So basically, a production company needed to form to produce this TV show, which is now our parent company, Discover Mediaworks. And not only do we have Discover Wisconsin, in 1999, they launched Into the Outdoors, which is a great program targeted to kids. And most recently, about 7 seasons ago, as it says right here, Dylan Rose, who happens to be Dick Rose's grandson, and Jack Sarama launched the show Boondock Nation. Now, boondocking is, as it says here, an adrenaline-fueled sport that requires snowmobilers to adjust their riding styles on the fly to conquer extreme weather conditions.
You guys agree with that definition? You have anything to add? Did we mess it up?
Okay, I took that definition from your website, so
Okay.
I would hope it was correct.
I would say it's correct for sure. Not only extreme weather conditions, but just extreme terrain and exploration.
I was going to say, because you guys, you're tearing up and down mountains, you're doing all this cool stuff, you're getting those things in the air.
That is essentially what boondocking is, no matter if you're at the professional level or if you're where we were at 7 years ago, just starting out. It's always a challenge, no matter how good you are.
And really, the snow conditions, when you're going up and down mountains, it changes quickly with elevation, does it not?
Yeah, and fun fact for you, wind can actually cause snow to accumulate on the lee side of a mountain at up to 18 inches per hour.
Wow.
That's
Per
intense.
hour?
Per hour. So when we're talking about changing conditions, in an avalanche scenario where you've got a weak layer in the snowpack, it can change very quickly.
Have you ever accidentally triggered an avalanche?
Nothing of any size, really. I've been
Or
in
nothing
one
that you would admit to?
Yeah. I've been in one probably the size of this building that we're in. But, it buried my snowmobile, and that was about it. We've been very fortunate. We always try and minimize our risk when we're out there.
Yeah.
Because that's truly dangerous stuff if it gets,
Absolutely. I mean, the snow sets up like concrete. And on any given day, you have a very small chance of being in an avalanche. But when you ride as much as we do, that risk is multiplied over 60, 70 days a season, over 5 to 10 years. It adds up. Mm-hmm. So we do whatever we can to minimize that risk.
What initially inspired you to look into doing this field of boondocking?
Well, Jack and I have always been just into snowmobiling in general. I mean, ever since we were both like 3 years old, at least that's the age that I started riding a snowmobile.
And you both grew up in Eagle River, which
Yeah.
is essentially the snowmobiling capital of the world.
It is.
The snowmobile was invented just west of you by a couple miles. And
Yeah. On the weekends after school, we would always get together, go ride our sleds in the ditches, or maybe take a UP trip every other weekend to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We've always looked up to some of these bigger snowmobile films out there and aspired to be and ride like some of those people out there. So
when you say snowmobile films, what are you talking about?
In the snowmobile industry, there really wasn't anything on TV prior to Boondock Nation. The only places you could really consume snowmobile content, the sweet, sexy shots, deep pow, that type of thing, big jumps, was films. Companies would make films each year. They'd always come out in the fall, and it's a big hype thing in the industry. Everybody gets geared up for winter around this time, and this is when all the films start coming out.
So in terms of content, it was all periodic films, and you said, hey, we can make this a fairly consistent show that people, and in today's world, you can go to YouTube or whatever and get that content, more unique content all the time.
Yeah, and I'd love to sit here and tell you that was our idea from the beginning, but it definitely was not. We wanted to share what we were doing with our friends because it was pretty progressive for us at the time, and we were also kind of selfishly hoping to get some discounts on products if we had enough followers.
What was your biggest challenge getting it going and then getting it to grow to this point?
being Wisconsinites, being Flatlanders, as some may say, was...
See, in Wisconsin, we call Illinois people Flatlanders, but I guess if you're in Montana and Idaho, we're considered fairly flat by comparison.
As things started with Boondock Nation, we did quite a bit of riding in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, but that area being fairly small, we knew a lot of our opportunity was out west. Once we started taking our first couple of trips out there, obviously we weren't very good on a snowmobile, but we had a lot of people that took us under their wing, thankfully, and kind of showed us the ropes. And after more and more seat time out there, our riding started to progress. So that was definitely a challenge getting started, is, trying to make good content with our riding being mediocre.
So kind of speaking of, but switching gears, what is the craziest thing you guys have ever done? Either, I think in general, snowmobiling, but on an episode. And also, what's the scariest thing you've ever done, if they're different?
That you can admit to for either one of those.
I bet, Dylan, I could probably guess yours. I just saw a sneak peek of an upcoming episode. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So as we mentioned, Jack and I have been trying to show a little bit more of the lifestyle and kind of getting to know us and our personalities and the personalities of the sledders we ride with, rather than just the highlight stuff. So was blessed with the opportunity on an off-season, being non-snowmobiling episode, to go tandem base jumping. So that was something I wasn't necessarily sure I was going to do until we were there. And then when the cameras got busted out, I was left with no option other than to do it.
You can't chicken out of those things, right?
No.
It's like right up until you got to the bridge, you weren't sure if you were going to do it.
Yeah, so that was pretty nerve-wracking. Very glad I did it. Obviously survived the tandem base jump. It was a cool experience. But
And where was that?
Twin Falls, Idaho.
And that's like the only place you can base jump in America, right? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, it's you don't need a permit or anything. I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but I can tell you Twin Falls is like a base jumper's paradise. We were there for most of the morning and into the afternoon, and you would see people just roll up on their car or bike and lock up their bike, throw a backpack on, walk out on the bridge, and just go jump off. And hike back up, maybe go back to work. Like that's what they did on their lunch break.
Oh my God.
Is this after a particularly good or bad morning at work? Figure out.
So I got to go jump off a bridge.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to do it. I'm not sure if I really would have wanted to. I say that now that I wanted to do it, but being in the moment, who knows? But the weight limit was like 180 pounds, and you were right there.
I was right there, yeah. I expected a little bit more scientific scale system, but I told him I was 180 pounds, kind of picked me up to make sure I felt like that, and we went for the jump.
What are they, bear hugging? Go, 178, I'd say. Wow. Okay.
Oh, goodness. Okay, well, what about you, Jack? What's the craziest or scariest thing you've done?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say craziest and not necessarily fun is I've had a couple snowmobile extractions where, I have to get my sled out of the mountains and it's not running. So I've had my fair share of issues, including at the end of this last season. My sled was sitting up in the mountains until the day before we moved out of Idaho. So some of those things, the mechanical failures seem to be my theme as the last couple of seasons. So we've had to do some pretty crazy stuff, putting a snowmobile on top of another one and trying to ride it out that way. Wow. I would say that was probably my craziest moment is this last season, trying to get my snowmobile out of the mountains.
It's September. You guys are premiering your season. So when does it premiere and where do people watch? How do they follow you along on social media? Give us the details.
Definitely stay tuned. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have content and videos coming out constantly throughout the year, and especially in the winter.
Mm-hmm. And what's your social handle for anyone wanting to follow you guys on like Instagram? Because I know you guys post a lot of like really great photos and videos and stuff there.
Yeah, at Boondock Nation, Boondock_Nation, I should say, is where it's at. And I'm Long Track Jack, and this is Ramblin' Rose.
All right.
I like that you guys have funny ones.
You guys should form a band. Long Track Jack and Ramblin' Rose.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us in the cabin today. It was kind of fun for us to do this like crossover of Discover Wisconsin and Boondock Nation. So
thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.